Yes, if anyone has questions throughout this, you can either type them in the chat or speak up. Just let us know. Or you do you. Do you have permission now, Tanya?
Oh, we lost your sound, Tanya.
We lost your sound.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I muted myself when the other person was being loud. So it says, please ask the host to give you permission to record.
Oh, okay.
So you need to right click on me and the participants and be like, she's fine.
Kick Tanya out. I get it.
You're like, gone.
Bam.
Awesome. I now have permission and we're now recording.
So Tanya Janca, everyone.
Hi. Welcome to Hacker Book Club, hosted by Angela and Casey. And I am their special guest this week, and I am stoked to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming back.
Yes, thank you. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you even more for choosing my book for Hacker Book Club. I am honored. This is so exciting. Like, all the other books are so awesome that I've seen that you're reviewing. So I'm like, yes, I'm part of an awesome club. Thank you. So from what I understand from last week is that everyone was supposed to read part 1. Who actually read it? I'm going to be honest. I did not read it again since our last meeting. But I have referenced it.
I did read it, but I read it to the understanding that I don't do AppSec, and I got the things and I thought about it some. So it didn't fully absorb yet because I might have read it today during my lunch break.
That's okay. I'm impressed that you could read a lot of technical stuff during lunch. That's kind of awesome that you can switch focus that hardcore.
I try.
Did anyone else so what if we're giving spoilers, Angela? If someone didn't read it and then we're telling them about part 1, is that too bad, so sad?
It is too bad, so sad, because we make the rules. I typed that on Twitter. Somebody was like, I didn't even know hackers had a book club. Maybe they're here tonight. I don't know. But I was like, yeah, we have a book club. We have everything we want because we make the rules. So yes. It's like we only have so many meetings, right, to cover the stuff. And they're not really spoilers. It's more like a treat. It's an incentive to read more.
I like it. I like it. So how about, did anyone have questions about part 1? And we could kind of go over that. And then if not, I had a question online that I kind of wanted to answer because it was such a weird question. I was like, oh, I never thought of that.
Well, I know Keisha has a comment that she wanted to talk about because we were talking earlier.
Okay.
So maybe she can ask you to elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, my comment was I had never heard of peppering before, ever. And so I thought that was interesting and I guess a little bit of a more difficult concept to grasp, I guess, because hashing and salts and all that stuff is difficult enough. But I guess if you can elaborate more on what peppering is and I guess real life use cases, maybe. I know that peppering is used in really extreme cases, but yeah.
So my technical editors are like, you have to put in peppering. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm the boss. And they're like, people do use peppering. I'm like, no one does it, yo. And they're like, actually, this one place and whatever. And in extreme instances, people do use it. But they're actually pushing that it would be advice for every single app. And I was like, no, if you F up your pepper, you're so screwed because then you have to rotate every user's password. And guess what you've done? Lost most of your users. Because I have to say that as a user who's security aware, if they're like, oh, by the way, we lost our pepper and blah, I'd be like, where's your competitor and how much do they cost? So I've never actually worked at a place where we have needed to use a pepper. It is a thing that exists and I felt like it's important to say, but the idea of, for everyone else, so when you store a password, you don't encrypt it because it's 2 ways. And because then people like me who are evil devs, we can go and fish it out. And then I've had dev teams go and do that and do bad things, like look up how much money other people make and then make fun of them in the office about it. And I'm like, oh, that's a data breach. That's not cool. And so instead of encrypting, what we're supposed to do is hash. So that is a one-way encryption. So it just goes like you take it, you jumble it up with a whole bunch of math, and then you get this random value that is totally not obvious and you can't ever reverse it. But it turns out that like with hashes, you can kind of look up common passwords and figure some stuff out. So then we started adding something called salting. So you make a random unique thing and you store that in the database and you put it in front of the password and then you hash that. And what that results in is that if Angela's password is fall 2020 and my password is fall 2020, you would add the salt to it, this random character thing, and then our hash will both look different. And so that means if the stuff spills out, it's fine. Now peppering, I kind of wish that I'd read up on it because like it was really hard to understand. But the idea is that there's yet another thing that you add and that is the same for everyone. And it's like a secret value of some sort. The problem with a pepper is that if you somehow lose it and need to rotate it, you have to reset every single person's password that uses your product. And I was like, that seems like a bad idea. And they're like, you know, here's when you would use it. And I'm like, so only in super duper extreme cases. But to me, the risk of if you mismanage that means that only really serious security teams should use it. So like you really know what you're doing and you're an advanced team. And two, you have a requirement for it. Or for some reason, you think that, first of all, that your passwords, wherever they're being stored, like the hashes of them are somewhat likely to be stolen, which is like, okay, And then on top of that, that you think you have an attacker that hates your guts so badly that they would spend a zillion hours over and over and over researching those. So top secret things in the American military, yeah, maybe. Canadian military, no one gives a shit what we do. We don't even really have a military. We have a bunch of dudes that look really good in combat. We don't really, and I'm sure the women look good too. But the point is like, no one takes our military seriously, like including me, and I'm a citizen. It's not the same like threat or interest. Everyone looks to our Southern partner who we are close friends with because they protect us, and lots of other reasons. But like the American military, intellectual property, for instance, like, so let's say you're on the team that's making quantum computing, or you're on the team that has made a COVID vaccine, that would be so valuable that it would be worth it to expend huge amounts of money to try to get that and steal that intellectual property. But generally with most things, it's like, in French, we say, ça vaut pas la peine. It's not worth the effort to do the thing. It's not worth the pain to do the thing. And so I wouldn't pepper most things. I don't know if that helped at all. Because basically I'm like, don't do it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It seemed really like, yeah, extreme. And I guess if you're dealing with like the COVID vaccine or something, then you would use it there. And then you said that the salts are stored in the beginning of the hashes. Is that what? So is there a reason why it's stored at the beginning and not, like, is that just how it is, or?
It could totally be at the end.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter. So like when you hash something, so like imagine the beginning, the salt was like Tanya, and then the password was fall 2020. And so like, just for simplicity, if you put every single time Tanya fall 2020 through the same hashing algorithm, you'll get the same result. If you put fall 2020 Tanya, you will get a completely different result.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
And so if you put the same as if you put Tanya fall 2021, completely, totally different.
Hello?
So, hi. But so like, I don't know if you've heard of rainbow tables.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of a rainbow table is that like you could slowly figure it out by looking variations of the same thing. So if you hash something and there's no salt, they're like, maybe you could do this or that and you could figure things out. If you have, but then you have to have the hashing algorithm as well. Like all of this makes for a lot of complexity, and like I am not an encryption expert, but you definitely, it doesn't matter where you put the salt, as long as it is in the exact same place every time. And so at the beginning is easy because it's always there, or at the end, but let's say you put it partway through, like what if someone's password's not long enough for that? Or do you know what I mean? But I don't think it needs to be on the beginning. Okay. I don't think it's important. I think that that's just the way that I've done it.
Okay.
It might be lack of creativity. Oh, you're welcome.
Denise, do you have a question about this? I see your hands up.
Yes, I have a question. Is it possible, or is it a practice if we put it in beginning and last? Does that make any difference?
Oh, lost your sound, Tanya.
I'm sorry. I mute sometimes when I'm not, whatever, and it's automatic.
It's okay.
So when you say at the beginning or at the end, do you mean the salt, or do you mean the pepper, or do you mean something else? And I totally misunderstood.
The salt. Can it
Okay.
be put both in the end, in the first?
Yeah, you can definitely put the salt at the beginning or at the end. It'll just make a different value. You have to put it the exact same way every time though, or it'll look like your password's wrong.
Could you
Does that
do
make
both?
sense? Yeah, the longer it is. But quite often what people do is like, they'll add a great big long salt and then they'll hash it, and then they'll just take the first 128 characters, and then that's actually what's stored in the database to save space. So sometimes people will put gigantic salts that are stupid, like 500 characters, and then they run it through the hash because it's completely ridiculous. And then they're just like, but we'll just keep the first 128 because it doesn't matter. If you look at haveibeenpwned.com, so you can send him a part of a hash to check your passwords. Because I remember people saying like, why would you send them your username and passwords to check to see if they've already been broken? Like, I mean, Troy's a great guy, but do we really trust him with everyone's passwords? I'm like, no, Troy's not asking you to send him your passwords. So he has like a SHA-1 hash that you do of the password. And then you take the last, I can't remember how many digits it is of the hash, and send it to him. And then he'll tell you if your username plus the passwords that have been breached for you match, like after he's hashed it, match the 4 last characters. And so I guess to a certain extent, he's telling you if it has or has not been, oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, and then he sends you the hashes of things. Shit, now I'm like trying to remember. I believe he sends you the hashes of like the last couple characters, and then you have to do a comparison. But basically never at any point does he have your exact password from you. So he probably does have many of our passwords because he owns haveibeenpwned.com. Right? And so he has all of that data. Like one of my passwords was pwned this week, sad face. It's a really old account that I haven't used in a million years, but so I personally think it's handy. Like if I was going to write an app that was take usernames and passwords, I would love to be able to, like when people put in their username and password, see if it's already in a data breach. So first they check your email. First they check your domain name, do we have any from that domain name? Then your like full email. And it's like, if you have one in there, then they do the hash to see if any of them match. And they probably, if they're a good service, alert the user immediately to say, hey, just FYI. Because sometimes people don't sign up for the service. Like most people I know that are lay people, they're probably in there 20 times. They have no idea because they don't know what that is. And they also don't know the word pwned because that's such old school language. So people that I know that are like 50, no offense, Troy, use that term. No, I really like Troy, and he's like been really wonderful to me. And there's like a quote from him in my book, but none of you have it because the publisher forgot to print it. But it will be in the next version. Yeah, but I think that that's like a thing, like how some people say information security and some people say cybersecurity. Sometimes it's about when you started in InfoSec, what language you use. And so pwned is something that my predecessors taught me. I just feel like I'm digging deeper and deeper, so I'm gonna shut up.
Hey, look, I thank you, Tanya.
You're like, I'll just like rescue you here.
What book? Anyway, do you want to talk about the question that was asked to you earlier?
Yeah, so so there's this dude named Frank, and we follow each other, and he is a redhead, and he made this awesome video about getting my book and how pumped he was, and so I was like, yes.
What's
he
the
said,
significance of the redheadedness?
oh, so that because a lot of people posted photos and videos of themselves with my book, but he was the only redhead that did it. That's also named
Adorable.
Frank.
Okay, got it.
So there's like so many photos now, and it's like wonderful. And then they're all, so if you like look through all of my media, it's all pictures of other humans now. It's like really awesome if you look through Twitter and my media, because I'm like, yeah. Anyway, it's really exciting for me when people post a picture of them with my book, because it makes me feel like it was worth doing all of those hours of editing. Okay, so he was saying, so you start immediately with the security mandate of CIA, so confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And he's like, why aren't authorization and authentication in there? That's how I teach it. And I was like, really? So then I searched all over the internet, because I'm like, is that what everyone else is doing? And I like missed that. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, just because that's the way how I start with it, that's how I was taught. I'm like, maybe that's not what everyone else is doing. But it turns out Frank is unique, and he teaches what we sometimes will say auth N and auth Z, like right at the beginning, because he feels they're so core to basically securing everything. So if you don't know who you're talking to, and you don't know if you should be talking to them, that you are potentially in trouble. But you don't really think it's the mandate. So like the mandate is to protect the CIA of the systems and the data that are in our care. But it's not our job to protect the authorization and authentication. Those are security controls we use to basically get the rest of the things we want. And so then after some discussion, we all sort of agreed to disagree, because we're very polite in AppSec. So I was like, you keep teaching that. That's awesome. Don't stop. Authorization and authentication are extremely, extremely important. I go on about them like ad nauseum, because they're so important, but I just don't start with them. I guess like I wanted to start.
Is he talking about InfoSec in general, or just app security that you should be responsible for that?
That's a really good point.
Didn't get there, did you?
No, I didn't think about that at all.
Okay, so overall security, yes, we should be responsible for that, most definitely.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Roger, would you teach it at the same time as teaching CIA?
Like he teaches it as CIAAA. That's how he teaches it.
I've sometimes heard it as CIAAA. It's like that's the new and improved CIA.
That's how I was taught it, and then it just made me confused, and I kept forgetting which A was the CIA A. So I don't know what's better.
What do you do? And maybe this is me showing my age.
You talking to me?
Yeah, Roger. What do you do? How do you teach it?
I do. I guess now it's called cybersecurity. So I'm a cybersecurity engineer. I'm a blue teamer, and
Nice.
You know, in other words, right? So a blue teamer for a bank.
That's hard work.
So you was talking about peppering. We do peppering. I guess it makes sense for a bank in theory, because the database, we want to separate the the hash from the database, basically, right? It looks good in theory, but in practicality, like you said, if that goes down, we screwed, But I guess in bank, it makes sense.
Well,
But
and if you work with
if
you work with a team that's really good at like certificate rotation, key rotation, all of those things. If
Oh,
like
yeah.
you work with a team where it is like clockwork and you're really awesome at that,
Uh-huh.
I feel like if you're at that level, you can, but I happen to know that like most companies, like it's like, oh, you have like 10 certs in prod that are expired. Do you know what I mean? And that's not the type of company they should be doing any peppering, because they're going to be in trouble in the first year.
Exactly.
Thanks for weighing in on peppering, because sometimes I feel like a weirdo and I'm the only one that's like heard of it. And, and so it's good. It exists in the wild, just like it's not common, because just the opportunity to screw up your stuff. Do you remember when briefly they did certificate pinning on websites, and then people accidentally like messed up their certificate, and then it was pinned into these people's browsers? And then what happened is they would go to the website, and even though they had a new certificate and they had fixed it, it was too late. The old cert was pinned into their browser, and it basically, no one could visit their website for like a year till it would expire in the browser. And so they called it like certificate pinning, basically suicide. And yeah, so people stopped doing that because the risk is so high. Oh, someone's sharing. Nick Malcolm in Wellington does a really good talk on password practices, including salting and peppering. Oh, John D, if you have the chance to look that up and share it in the chat, that would be really cool. He presented at CHCon at the end of October, and I think there's a recording available. Nice. Because yeah, that would be good. Because
I'll see if I can find a link to it.
Thanks, John.
Cool. It's
Yes.
nice to see you,
So
John.
Tanya, I kind of have it's not really a question so much as a comment, but I thought it was a really good point that you made when you were talking about the software development lifecycle and how finding a mistake at each stage like is incrementally more like adding a 0 to each number. And I just thought that was a good visualization for that, because a lot of people don't really like, they get that it'll be worse if you find something in production versus if you find it in the like earlier phases. But I thought that was just a really good visualization of that issue.
I have this friend, so I have slides that I show where it like increments the number as it's going from each environment. And she's like, ooh, so her name's Sasha all of a sudden I was going to say Rodbaum. I know it's Divine Ops on Twitter, and we used to work together at Microsoft. She's amazing, and she gives talks, and she's awesome sauce. And so she took that slide, and then she like turned it into like a moving graph, and she's like, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this. And then she's like, and then here's if a bad person finds it in production instead of you. And then she has to take the slide and go down, and it's like this, do you know what I mean, in the graph? And she's like, well, you get the picture, next slide. I'm just like, oh, that's so good. Because she's like, yeah, it's exponential, the next level, if you have a data breach or just even the cost of a security incident. Like, it's so expensive to have an incident. Even if you solve it in-house and everything's fine, just taking a bunch of your engineers for 3 weeks off the tasks they're supposed to do, and all they're doing is working on this and all the other problems that ensue, it's like, it's really expensive. Definitely. So did anyone look at any of the questions at the ends of any of the chapters? Did anyone have answers they felt brave to share, or questions they wanted to discuss? Or were there any parts that you thought were interesting, or that you disagree with, or that you're like, oh my gosh, that's totally happened to me? I have had that.
Well, one of my comments in general was that I really liked the examples you're giving with Alice and Bob, which, I mean, I would hope that they're good because that's the name of the book, but like, they make sense. And that was one of the things that was hard for me in the beginning of learning cybersecurity in general, was like real world usage of X, Y, and Z things. But you even like the questions are even the same, like kind of thought process of like, if someone hacks your smart thermostat and turns off your heat, which parts of the CIA did they break? And like, it's stuff that normal people actually have, right? It's not like, you know, this government thing in the military that like 3 people ever have seen or heard of. And so just, I really like this and your format.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so I was just curious about like how you got like all your example, like are all these things that you've dealt with before, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bob is me from like age 17 to age 31. And then Alice is me from age 31 to like 42. It's basically like, and then some of them, it's not like a thing that happened to me. It's a thing that happened to like a colleague or like
Okay.
another person, another department. Or sometimes it's a thing that at a security conference, someone has told me after a couple drinks, after everyone's gone home, and they're like, this is happening in my office. We need to talk. I need some help. And I'm like, okay. And then they like just spill all these beans that they're definitely not supposed to spill. And some of those make great stories.
Got it.
Also, some of my stories, I made up the fake end because that's the dream that I wish happened. But really, they were just like, they just kept with the technical debt.
Okay.
But I wanted to have happy stories of when technical debt was actually addressed before it was an emergency.
Got it.
Yeah, because I felt like if I put all of the sad stories about technical debt, people would be discouraged, and we should have some happy stories about technical debt.
Sure. That makes sense.
Happy endings are always more positive, like experiences when reading a book. And it probably would make people more motivated to enjoy the book if the people have happy endings, at least.
Yeah, or like it could encourage them, or it could show them a way forward of things that could happen. Like I actually had a boss once, and we had all these legacy apps under us. And we went through this time where we had no work for 4 months. So we had like 14 or 12 devs. And for whatever reason, all the projects ended and our new projects weren't approved yet. So we had like this weird where we're kind of doing mostly nothing all day for like months. And so I said, great, we are going to update all of like, we're going to rewrite all of our VB5 and 6 apps. And this was not that long ago. And they had our mission critical, most important app in VB5. Yeah, I don't mean VB.net, I mean VB. And he was like, no, the clients have to pay for that. And I was like, we are getting paid our full-time salary, and the clients are just other people in our large company we work in. We need to do it because we have time and resources available right now. And like this technical debt, like we can't afford it. It's always broken. And he was like, no, I don't do shit unless we're paid. And I was like, no, we're still all getting our salaries. Like nothing has changed. Like this is really bad for our organization. And so do you know what? And so I was like, you have to give our devs projects to do. And he's like, why? I'm like, because they're going to get into trouble. And they did. They got into lots of trouble. And I was just like, now I have to yell at people. Thanks a lot. Anyway, turned out some of them figured out that whole our passwords weren't hashed. They were just encrypted thing. And lots of me running around telling people that what they're doing was inappropriate. And also people deciding that they would rewrite wrong. Anyway, they got into trouble. That's what they did. If you have to sit at a desk all day and you have nothing to do, what are you going to do? There's only so much internet surfing you can do. And if you're a dev, what are you going to do? You're going to build things, not things we necessarily want on our network. Okay, going to just stop now.
I have another comment. And that is, I like to read books similar to this that also have like actionable things that you can take with you immediately. Like the requirements checklist is so badass because it's something that I could like read through right now and then actually go do it. And that's amazing. And that's so valuable. And like, was that always your plan to like be that helpful? Or were you just kind of like, oh yeah, I could put this in there? Like, how did that end up, you know?
So I wrote this blog series in 2018 and 2019 that has 23 posts, and it's called Pushing Left Like a Boss. And I made a really short checklist of security requirements in it. And then I do consulting on the side. So I'll get phone calls from companies and I just like give them advice for an hour. And I was sending a link to that blog post at least 5 times a week. And then people like on social media, they'll write me and stuff and be like, what should I do about this? And then I'd just be sending them the blog post. And I just like kept sending it over and over and over. And then I was like, I should build it out so it's better and like elaborate and like actually explain the requirements. And so then there's also a secure code and guideline, which is what chapter 4 is, except way, way more stuff. And I just kept emailing that to people too all the time. And I was just like, I just want to build a thing that I wanted to use at work, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, so basically I really wanted to make it so people could go and do the job. So either they could read this book and be an AppSec engineer after, or they could read the book and be like a ridiculously kick-ass secure coder. Yeah, because that's what I want to exist, because I want to buy shoes on the internet safely.
Me too.
Sounds like you got your priorities straight.
Oh, send us your blog link. So it's dev.to/she-hacks-purple. That's it. And so I have like a series on DevSecOps that I'm doing and a book club series, but there's no one else in my book club. I actually just like crunch a serious number of books because I love books. And so I look, yeah, no, but like I just write about, it's like basically review of like a bunch of books I read that I thought were valuable. And I haven't posted anything since July, when I posted the Black Lives Matter book club edition, where I talked about books that show bias and algorithms and bias in tech and how they happen, how we can overcome them. And mostly because I also wanted to just be like really frustrating to people that weren't on board with Black Lives Matter. I wanted all those people to just be like going away from my blog. Because yeah, but I should actually, my team was talking at work. They're like, you haven't written in your blog and since like July. I'm like, yeah, I built 3 courses and I did this and I did that. And they're like, we're not saying you weren't busy, but you can't just not blog. I'm like, okay. working on it. So yeah, there should be another security as everybody's job coming out relatively soon. And also I am supposed to share something about our courses, because they're like, you have to tell people about the thing we sell. You can't just make it and secretly put it on the internet and then hope people buy it. I'm like, oh.
So I do have a question for you actually about part 1. If there was one piece of information that you think is the most valuable, like for like one part of, or like one subsection, like what is the most valuable information from part 1? So if you haven't
validation.
Input validation. So hey, if you haven't read that section yet, that's your assignment unofficially.
Seriously, input validation is, so requirements. Is that in part 1? Yeah,
It is.
it's entity. I'm like trying to figure out where I put it.
I think it's in
cookies.
section number 3, maybe.
Yeah,
No.
it's input validation and sanitization, page 58. And
Yeah.
I go on and on throughout the book about where I kind of come back to that, the idea of not trusting anyone or anything. So sometimes it's, sorry?
Yeah, no, I was saying about input validation, which is so amazing. I mean, that's been on the OWASP top 10 for 20 years. I don't understand how that's not solved. It's so simple. Well, I won't say it's simple from my point of view, but from a coding point of view, it's probably a little.
Oh, you muted yourself, Roger.
Sorry, but we had 20 years to get this right. It's still that and cross-site scripting. I don't understand.
I know, and the thing is like, if so I get asked this all the time, like, what is your number 1 tip, or what would be the thing that you wish that you could have every dev do? And I'm like, I want every single dev to validate every single input to their application. And if it's not what is on the good list, just reject it. Game over, done. That's it. Don't reflect it to the screen, please. Don't do that. Just say, sorry, bad input. What are you doing? But like lots of them will reflect it to the screen. Then we end up with cross-site scripting. Lots of them will not valid, or they'll tell you exactly what's wrong, or more often than not, they'll make a block list. So it'll be like a list of single quotes are bad. And I think that, open arrow bracket and close arrow bracket are bad. So I'm going to block those. And now I've solved injection and cross-site scripting. I'm like, no, you've totally not done that. You have made a thing that will take 4 seconds to get around. And instead, what we need to do is make like a list of what should be coming into our app and what is okay to come into our app. And then that's it.
Yeah, we have that problem at banks. I mean, if I ask you for your credit card number, that's all it should take. Input validation. Why is it taking other, a name?
No letters.
Yeah. So it's weird.
I know. And then the second thing that you said Input validation. Oh yeah. And the other advice that I would give like every dev ever is just, if you don't know how to do something and you're going to look up how to do it on the internet, look up the most secure way to do whatever you're going to do. And don't ever copy and paste from the top value on Stack Overflow, because everyone like undoes the security. They're like, oh, is it not working? No problem, man. Just turn off HTTPS. Now it'll work. Oh no, how about we remove the authentication? Oh, the input validation. And they just like undo everything. And they're like, this is the one that works. I'm like, yeah, the one where you stripped away all of our defenses. And so if you look up the most secure way to do whatever the thing is, like if every time they didn't know they did that, we'd have, yeah, things would go better.
Yeah, and it's funny because you know, we do the pen test, you know, the hack against that. And when we come up and say, hey, we found that we could input these characters, they say, well, what user would input, you know, curly brackets? Well, it's not
You're
the
like,
user we are worried against.
You're
you know?
worried about the actual like adversary in that situation,
yes.
buddy.
Yeah, but they're like, what user would put curly brackets? That's dumb. Why would we waste all our time in code to block curly brackets? You know, so I'm like, okay.
you're like, yeah. Do you sometimes make proof of concepts to show them?
No,
what
we
could
actually
happen?
hacked them and showed them. We actually said, see, we got in, we got passwords, we got, they're like, well, that's dumb, you know? Yeah,
You're
so
like, no one would do that. You're like, we just did that.
yeah. Why would anybody do a SQL query in a user name field? Like, who does
Fun.
that? Yeah, it's crazy.
If you work at a bank, like literally that is I would say it's an attractive target to the most amount of people. Does that make sense?
To everybody, yeah. We're everybody's best script kiddies, everybody, because they think that they could just, you know, I don't know if they hear the news or whatever, but they think they're going to hit lotto by cracking, you know, you're just cracking into one user. You're not breaking the bank, but, you know, they have that attitude.
Yeah, I think that they would be disappointed if they saw how much regular people actually have in most of their accounts.
Right. But it's not it's the blowback that costs us a lot of money.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not, so they steal millions of accounts. Some of them accounts, like, you know, they can't even really get into, or there's really nothing to take. But it's the blowback from the press and everything that costs us more money than the actual hack. If y'all could understand that, you know. So like Target, you know how much money Target spent on cleanup? You know, way more than it cost when they got hacked, when the credit card got hacked. You know?
Yeah. Well, and it's sometimes when I try to explain risk to developers, I explain the level of humiliation involved. Like for me personally, as the incident responder or the person in charge of AppSec, or like for our employees. So for instance, like one of my teams, something happened and 6 of our employees' personal data was breached. So like where they lived, their home address, how much money they made, and all sorts of things about them. Basically like their employee record. And that's personal information. And so then I had to sit down with each one of them, explain to them what identity theft is and what credit monitoring is. And then we had to go and like reset their passwords with them. And I'm like, one of them's a grandma. She doesn't even know how her phone works. And she's like, someone's gonna pretend they're me. And like, she's like crying, she's so upset. And like, I'm like, do you understand what a failure I feel like as a security person when I have to tell that to someone? I'm like, could you imagine having to do that? So when you break our security policies, like when you won't give us time to test your code, when you do this, I'm like, this is what happens. Do you want to do this to your colleagues? And then they're like, now I feel shitty. But like, it's like, or another time I worked somewhere, oh my God. We had our data stolen out of our database and it was for sale on the dark web. And it was for sale for $50. It's so humiliating to have a data breach, but then have all of your data sold And then no one was buying it. At one point, one of my teammates was like, I want to buy it, so at least I feel like we're worth something.
Tanya, I found someone's social security card 2 days ago in another city, and I was like, wow, it's like finding $1 million. And then I was like, no, it's probably like 20. And I was like, that's so sad.
Because it's so common.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
It's like $3 in the
Yeah.
dollar.
I was like, wait a minute. And so I took it, because then I was like, I don't want anybody else to find it, because somebody bad could do something bad. But
oh yeah. Good on you for doing the right thing. I actually know, like, so I'm in my 40s, so I've had lots of friends that have been divorced. And one of them, her ex worked in tech and installed a keylogger on her computer before they split up. Yeah, and so she's like, it's like my ex always knows what's happening, like things that my ex could not possibly know. And then I was like, okay, give me your computer. And like we formatted and did all this stuff, reset all of her passwords and everything. And then she's like, yeah, my ex doesn't know anything anymore. And like, she's not sure if they had like the passwords or if it was like already logged in on the computer. And I know someone else, and during his, like during a battle that he was doing with his ex, so I guess she was hiding funds and didn't change any of the passwords to their joint accounts or any of their bank accounts. And so then he could prove like she's been embezzling money from her own company and this and that, not reporting this income, so that she doesn't have to, so that he has to pay her about rather than them being even. And it was like, oh my gosh, you could have like changed, like, okay, so everyone here, if you break up with someone and they could have possibly ever, if you've ever logged in on their machine or whatever, like change every password you have. And so like a keylogger is a completely different level of awful piece of crapness of my one friend's ex. I'm like, I'm so glad you divorced that person. That person sucks. But like, change your Facebook password, change your like, and sometimes people are like, oh, well, Facebook's not really important. And I'm like, oh yeah, what if I logged into your account and I wrote your mom and called her the B word?
Yeah.
And they're like, what? I'm like, imagine if your mom thought you called her that. I'm like, my mom would cry for like a week. She would be so hurt. I've never called my mom names other than like mama, mama mia. Like I have cute nicknames for her, but they're all like pet adorable names. But like, could you imagine? That would break my mom's heart. She would be really, really upset. So I'm like, imagine I went and wrote, and they're like, no one would do that. I'm like, dude, when people go through a divorce, some of them are civil and like maintain their current personality, and some of them show you this evil personality that they've always had. Like I had a friend and he put cat poop in her shoes. Yeah, so she goes to put her shoes on in the morning and she's like, and like, this is why threat modeling is important. Personal digital security is important. So when you get to chapter 9, we go over like personal digital security, but also digital security for places where you work, because lots of devs actually do all sorts of things to try to get their jobs done that aren't super secure, that they're not aware that they're doing, that are like a bit dangerous. And some of the things that I do, so like I run a small business, right? I run We Hack Purple. And basically almost every new staff member, they're like, don't worry, Tanya, I have like a really good password. So it's like 5 characters and then I have a number. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, so I need you to read chapter 9. But I always promise new employees that like, don't do cybersecurity stuff, that I'm going to teach them all the things they need to know to like, I teach them, we use 1Password. And so I teach them how to manage their stuff. And then I teaching them how to like change, you could change your Facebook password. Oh, you've had it 15 years. Maybe it's time to upgrade from that 6 numbers and 2 letters thing that you got going of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then your first initial and your last initial. Could be cool, right? And so like we try to influence in different ways that are positive. Yeah, I forget where I was going with that. But anyway,
It's okay.
chapter 9 could be really helpful. Oh, if you're part of Hacker Book Club, you might already know some of the things. A book I can recommend that's really, really, really good for privacy online and your reputation and digital literacy, like is called The Smart Girl's Guide to Privacy Online by
I just
Violet
read that
Bloom.
book. It's super good. I actually got it for my like high school aged cousin for Christmas because I got her my little cousins the Malware for Babies books for Christmas, and I was like, well, I need to get something for the other sibling. So what do I get her? And I decided to get her that book. I read it before I took it to her house. So recommend it.
That's cool.
It's such
Can you
a good
put that in the
book.
chat if you don't mind?
Yeah, yeah.
Tanya, we have two questions that I want to get to before we end for
Yeah.
tonight. Not that we have to end at those questions if there's still time, but the first one was, how do you engage with developers when you aren't a developer and discuss security without coming across as distrusting their code? That's from Janice.
Okay. Hi, Janice. So I've always been a dev. So you need to take my advice with a grain of salt because I've literally been programming since I was a kid. So it's hard for me to like take that out of my brain. So I would start with saying, okay, so I'm going to say the most biased thing I could ever say is be like, have you read this? Because like I bought this because she's my friend and it's really good. Do you want to borrow it? Well, that would be a good way to break some ice. You're like, I got you a present. Also, I don't know if you know, but us developers, if you have warm pizza, we just appear out of nowhere. Yeah, right, exactly. And so if you have a lunch and learn, and a thing that I did at one place, so there were politics involved and I wasn't allowed giving presentations anymore because apparently mine were more popular than my boss's presentations, and then jealousy ensued. And so then I was not allowed to give presentations anymore because adults can act like children. And anyway, yes, oh my gosh. Anyway, so instead of me presenting, what I would do is I would watch different videos from various conferences and pick one that I felt kind of like applied to some stuff that I saw at work. And then I would have like a lunchtime lunch and watch. So, and then I'd be like, just come hang out with the AppSec team. We're pretty cool. And we weren't very cool, but people would show up and we would hang out and we couldn't even afford to buy them lunch. So we're just like, we're offering like literally just internet streaming to YouTube that you could totally do at your desk with our company, like with our added, like you get to spend time with us, which I considered a pro. And we would answer questions in both official languages because we're bilingual. So even if the talk was in English, I'm like, I will explain stuff to you in French if I need to. And so then we would just kind of like hang out. And that was a way for me to engage some of them. Another thing that I did that worked really well. So I worked at a place where they actually had a serious problem with apathy, such that they're actually considering firing the entire executive team because the apathy was so strong with employees. The employees like literally, they just didn't give any Fs about anything. They didn't give an F about security, but they didn't give an F about anything. And they were like going like this. And so, yeah, I was in, so again, they were not good at security. So I was in a meeting as a new employee with the executives so that like I could meet people. And then basically the top big boss was like, yeah, I want to talk about how I'm probably going to fire all of you again if you can't fix this. And I was just like, I don't think I'm supposed to be in this meeting. It was like, there like 2 weeks. And then they're all like, oh, we're going to talk about that later. Tanya, could you leave? I'm like, yes. Yeah. And they also showed the agenda. And so then I saw that they're probably going to be fired. But anyway, the point is like the apathy was so bad, like nothing was getting done. It was a total disaster. And so I struggled to get buy-in. So I wanted to implement a secure coding guideline and then make it a standard. And so what I did is I wrote one, but you can just steal one. There's one in here in chapter 4. So just take it. And then I held consultations. So I literally wrote any dev whose name I had and was like, hey, I'm Tanya. I'm the newest person on the AppSec team. So I am going to do this and I've attached this and I'd really love to have your opinion. Could we have coffee? And 5 of them said yes. One of them, he brought his whole team with him and they're like, what is this crap? Our apps could never meet this. And turns out they thought injection and cross-site scripting were the same thing. And I explained like kind of the differences. And then they're like, she seems to know things. And then those people that I consulted, I made changes to it based on what they said, except for the team that didn't know the difference between any of the major vulnerabilities. They were just there to learn. Oh, bye, John. But basically, like, it was good, and I connected with those people. And then whenever I wanted to like make a big move, I was like, I'm thinking of bringing a new scanner in. Like, did you want to come and play with it with me and see it or this? And I just kept like inviting them to do stuff with me, and most of them did not find it too annoying. And the lunch and watch things went pretty well. And then eventually I was allowed presenting again. Then a ton of people came and we got fan mail, and then I wasn't allowed presenting anymore. And then I quit. And they're like, why are you quitting? And I was just like, see you later. Yeah. My exit interview was really interesting.
Also, keep in mind, Tanya's in Canada, for anybody that didn't know that. This is Canada.
Okay, that's why. I was like,
Canada
what?
life. Yeah.
Oh,
In America.
sorry. What is funny
I'm
that
just-
is not something that would
it's-
happen in America?
Well, like, you're super nice.
Yes.
You being
Okay.
the nicest. Yeah.
Okay.
Makes more sense.
In my exit interview, I was very direct though. They were like, why are you leaving? And I'm like, because I feel that you as my manager, your main goal every day is to thwart all of my efforts to get anything done. I literally feel that way. And she was like, what? And then I gave her like 20 examples. And I was like, could you explain any of those decisions to me? And she's like, I don't fucking answer to you. And I was like, yeah, so I quit. And the HR person's like, whoa, because in Canada, that's very intense. It was. Anyway, okay.
I just wanted to add that in New Zealand, it's even better.
Yeah.
You can
Places we can't go. Oh, how nice.
Yeah, you can straight up say whatever you need to say at any point in time.
But there's one thing about that question. We suffered that in the bank because a lot of companies become silos, right? And there's a big wall between, especially between developers and InfoSec, right? They think that we are their parent. You know, like your mom comes in and says, clean your room. She don't tell you how to clean your room, but she comes in and says, clean your room. You clean it, and they say, oh, it's not clean enough, clean it again. That's how they feel. And then also, too, the company feels like we're wasting a lot of their money because the product is already done. So what our CIO did was include us in the beginning, not at the end. It's already done. Programmers already moved on, right? So now you call a developer that's on another 3 projects to come back to this project to fix input validation. No, sorry. You know, so you're going to get a lot of kickback. So if we could be there in the beginning and help them while they're doing their code, and then on top of that, do, you know, the educational part, why we are pushing secure code, what happens in the end, you know, I think that's a better approach too. You know, you have to get in the beginning. If you're at the end, forget it.
I would like to say I 100% agree with everything he said. And sometimes at meetups, if someone's talking, you want to agree with them, you do jazz hands where you're like, I agree, it's so good, but you don't want to like interrupt them and be rude because Canada. So you're like, yes.
That's funny. In America, that means stop. You
No, man.
No, like it's not common. It's not common, but I've been to a couple places where they'll say, please use the jazz hands if you want to express support. And like, so you don't interrupt them verbally and they can keep talking. Yeah.
Thanks, Roger, for that comment. Tanya, we have another question I want to get to.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was one, it's that Tony said that the comment that you made about your mother was so Canadian and totally in a cute way. Because that was accidentally sent to me privately, I think. And I had the same feeling as that was the cutest thing I've ever heard, because I could be like, hey, bitch, to like a lot of people that wouldn't even get offended. So,
but imagine if you wrote your mom a really nasty letter. Most people like, okay, so there are some people whose moms deserve a nasty letter, to be clear. Mine's not one of them.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. So I just wanted to throw that in there. But the actual question is from Denise, and Denise, I don't think this is a dumb question. I don't know the answer to this either, so I'd like to know what it is. And it is that when you're testing, does it matter that your test environment is secure or not?
Yes and no. So it's really important that when you're testing that you are not testing on production data. You should be instead testing a masked version of production data or completely, totally test data. And if I were you, I would protect your test data from the security testing. So often, like QA will have all these automated tests where they expect certain results based on the data they have. If you mess up all their data, the QA team's going to be pissed. So definitely you want to back up data before you do security testing. The testing area, it kind of, what would you need to protect it from? So you need to protect it from you and the testing you're doing. So if you're doing something like stress or performance testing, don't do your own denial of service testing. That's like a thing you need to hire experts for. And also mostly you could just like not test it and instead just get that service from your cloud provider, or don't, and just know that you'll fall or you won't, which I talk about in the testing chapter, which is chapter 5. Did we read that yet? No. Or is it chapter 6 is testing? Just a second. Yeah, chapter 6 is testing. So I think that's in the next part.
Cool.
So I have like an entire chapter about testing, but protecting your testing environment, you want to make sure that you don't make a giant mess and piss off all the other teams. You want to make sure that your testing doesn't infect other environments and their availability. You want to make sure that you are not using real data, because that data should only be accessible in prod for prod reasons. You talk about masking data and how a lot of places don't do it and it results in bad things.
Okay, great. That's a good answer.
I don't know if did I answer that? Was that okay, Denise?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question.
Okay.
And this isn't necessarily like in the book. So, but my question is, what would be like your main, like what would you say to someone who was interested in being a developer, but then kind of interested in cybersecurity? Like, what would you say to kind of say, but application security is where you should be working? Like, what advice would you give that person?
I would play this part of the video where you said that. Because that's like that's the perfect answer. Your question is the perfect answer, where you're like, but if you're interested in cyber and you're also interested in software development, this is like the magic point where they meet, where you get to do both.
But I'm not in AppSec. You are. So what would you like? But why is it like why?
So I don't know. When I was a software developer, I honestly didn't think I would ever like something better. I considered changing careers at one point because someone told us they were going to lay all of the devs off and they were going to outsource it to another country where they were cheaper and better. That's what the person said from management in one of my government organizations I worked in. And so he got in a lot of trouble when my dev team started quitting. And they're like, what's happening? I'm like, well, he told us they're laying up, and the person went, and it wasn't good for that guy. Apparently they're only outsourcing help desk, and they're like, please don't leave us. But anyway, that was not good for the help desk. But that said, I never thought I would like something better. And it wasn't until I started seeing like my professional mentor. So I was running a lunch and learn program for my devs for around 2-3 years. I worked there 3.5 years. And basically the security team was like, hey, you should invite this dude. He's a hacker. He could teach you some cool stuff. Like you've had, so we were a Microsoft.NET shop. So we had a dude teach us Team Foundation Server, and we had a dude come and show us like cool nifty tricks in SQL, etc. And so we also had, because I am very active, so we had someone come in and show us like what all the best routes were for running at lunch and not messing stuff up, or like nutrition and all this stuff, because management was like, Tanya, the devs are happy you're doing it at lunch. It's costing us nothing. Keep doing it. And so this guy came in and he taught us about SQL injection, and I was like, and he showed us injecting one of our apps, and I was like, I must know. I must understand. And so then I was like, do you want to come back and teach us more stuff? And he's like, yes. So then he invited his friend who showed us malware analysis. Then he introduced me to this other guy. And so unbeknownst to me, I met every ethical hacker in my city basically and became their friends as this dev that was just super excited.
Sure.
So when I joined security, I actually knew most of the security industry or like community already, like all the leaders in my community, like totally not on purpose. And so one of them was just like, hey, do you want to come? I'm like doing this buffer overflow workshop. I'm like, what's that? He's like, you're going to find out. Let's smash some stacks. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, I remember that from school and this and that. And like, this is cool, blah, blah. And I was just like, oh, I should go to OWASP. And they're like, literally the second meeting, they're like, do you want to be the OWASP leader? You're amazing. And I was like, why? And they're like, you're so good at planning stuff. And so then I just like go and see people that were awesome and be like, do you want to present at my OWASP chapter? And people who usually charge thousands of dollars to present are like, you were just so cute. You were like, I want to learn so bad. I'm so excited. I'm so interested. They're like one of them was like, he came to speak for us 4 times. And he's like, usually I charge for training, right? But I was like, she's just so adorable. She's so excited. Because I was. And so then he convinced me, that first person convinced me to become his mentee. He spent a year and a half. We had like 20 security presentations. I met the entire industry. I joined OWASP, I did all this stuff. And then he's like, okay, I don't care, you're coming over, you're joining security. And I was just like, no, I don't know, software development's the best. Like now I'm a super secure coder, like I'm the bomb. And he was just like, no, damn it, you're coming. So then I thought I would give it a try and I liked it.
I love that. Thank you for that answer.
So maybe I think we just need to lure them in with interesting, cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right. And like also show them there's a career here for you. Cause I feel like breaking in is really hard. So that's a thing that I'm working on with We Hack Purple. Like we have a community. So it's closed right now because we're relaunching on a new platform. But basically like our plan is to let all of industry post any jobs that are entry level for free so that we can try to connect all of our students to jobs. And the goal is in 3 to 5 years to have every single grad have a paid internship or co-op placement or full-time job at the end. That is my very aggressive goal. Because like this whole, like there's a skills gap or there's like a resource gap, like we can't, and it's like, well, we don't let anyone have the junior jobs. There's no like connection. They go to school, they teach them some stuff. None of it is relevant to industry at all. Like all the people I know, I've had students come up to me and say, I just took a 2 years master's in cybersecurity and I just learned more in the last hour from you. No, I've heard that repeatedly over and over and over again. Yeah, that they're just they're teaching old stuff that's not valid anymore or things that just don't apply if you're going to do AppSec.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I wrote this book. It was not to make money. If I get paid $1 an hour by the end of this, I will be surprised because you don't make money off of a book.
Sure.
Yeah, it's because I want things to be more secure. I also want to be able to pay my mortgage and have savings and like be an adult financially, but like I feel like I want to try my hardest to like work on this big problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I now, as of yesterday, have 7 people on my team, including me. So we added another person. Yes. And he has the best mustache ever. It's like really big and amazing and old timey and awesome. But anyway, I feel like we need to bridge the gap and we'll never have senior people, will never have experts if we don't give juniors a job and teach them. And so I'm hoping that I can like prepare them so they actually do a good job. And then maybe more places will be willing to hire more junior people. And the Cyber Mentoring Monday thing that I do every Monday on Twitter, like that is connecting tons of people, but I just didn't feel like it was enough. And so the We Hack Purple community, which is like relaunching hopefully before Christmas, but probably after Christmas because I'm losing time on things because I want to make it perfect. But basically that like, it's a community, it costs money, just to be clear, it's $10 a month, so it's not free. But the idea is there's gonna be constant content, other people can share content, people can talk and meet, and like there'll be this stream of early jobs. And it's not going to be, we want a junior AppSec person with 10 years experience because I will tell those people to F off. I literally like am not polite if someone's like, yeah, we have this junior position. Like, yeah, it's like entry level. Yeah, like 5 years experience. I'm like,
Yes, we do that at our bank. Here's the problem. We have junior level, but we're looking to hire people like you guys for junior level. Like, literally your resume would be a junior level job, would get you a junior level job. Not saying, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for top talent.
But you want to pay bottom dollar.
Right, for junior level positions. So, our expectations are too high, and that's the problem too. You got to bring us down. I mean, we didn't hire a junior level guy because he didn't know Python. Like, who uses Python? And so that's, stuff like that. We have to try to kill that attitude in corporations.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how to solve that. I don't know. I feel like
you have to start talking to hiring managers and trying to get more realistic job descriptions.
Yeah.
It's not even the job descriptions, they interview too, so it's the whole thing. Like, we're like, these companies now, like our company, we want to be Google and do some wild fang interviewing, and you just hiring someone to clean the toilet. What do you do? You know what I'm saying? So,
they're like, now for the whiteboarding coding, live coding exercise so that you can be our janitor.
Yes, you can be our janitor. Yeah. So it's just, I think we need to be more realistic too.
Yeah.
You have to educate us on what junior level is and why we need to hire, junior level.
Well, and the value that you can get junior level. Like, I have 2 students working for me right now, and they provide value. I am very pleased they work for me. I was telling one of them the other day, he's like, I'm not doing as good as this other more senior salesperson. And I'm like, you're a student. Do you understand that you are completely incredible? Like, you're impressing my socks off every day. Like, I guess, yeah. Sometimes people need to hear it. And also I think organizations need to be able to see it. Because like, if you're hiring a junior AppSec person, if you can get them to go around and like verify the results of your automated tool and go talk to devs and help them fix bugs, that's awesome, right? And then have them go to important meetings with you. So that's what I do with students, is I like drag them around with me. I'm like, I'm going to meet with a client to do a big sales deal. I will be doing the talking, but I want you to learn, because eventually I want you to do these big sales deals. Do you know what I mean? And like, that's how you learn, is by shadowing and getting feedback repeatedly. And it's like, okay, so which part, like, if they ask this, or for instance, like we get like a lot of emails coming in with people that want to buy our courses. Awesome. And then sometimes he's like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Like when they say, is this SDLC agnostic? What does that mean? I'm like, cool, let's talk about that question, right? And so then he's learning about AppSec because he's awesome at sales. But like that thing of where you just you give them a little bit of time, a few times a week, and then before you know it, like they don't need you at all. They're just like knocking stuff out of the park. But it's about making an investment in a person. And I think like a lot of companies are like, we just need good security now. And I'm like, yeah, you need it now because you haven't been doing it in a long time. If you have been planning this shit, you will be in a different place. But anyway, that is my attitude there. Okay, so we've gone 20 minutes past. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm very
okay.
verbose. So Angela, wrap it up. And
Most
thank you, everyone.
I just want to say,
Go,
I
Roger.
wanted to join you on LinkedIn, but it asked for an email. Can you post that in the chat?
So the reason why I have it set like that is because I am not allowed to connect to more people. So there is a maximum number on LinkedIn and it's 30,000.
Millions.
And I'm not allowed to connect to anyone else. And so people have to follow me. And LinkedIn, I actually have written them repeatedly. And I'm like, listen, you make me look like a jerk. People try to connect with me. And then I actually have the connection button like grayed out. And so then they're in like this limbo forever. And I also can't like get to that mailbox because it's like this little tiny thing and they have to scroll. So at one point I had like 12,000 people in that little inbox. And I'm like, I can't send those people a mass letter and say, sorry, LinkedIn are jerk faces and they don't know how to code. And they've made an app that wouldn't scale. Because like apparently as soon as you add some people, it just crashes all of LinkedIn if it goes above 30,000. And so I'm like, they're like, tell people to follow you. I'm like, I don't have time to write a letter to every person to And also it sounds arrogant, like just follow me. Like I don't know, I don't like the way it comes off. So then I wanted to write like this automated tool to do stuff, and eventually I was just like, I'm spending too many cycles on this.
We
and
could
I'm
just
gonna
make you a
quit.
second account.
Well, no, but then someone has to answer those. So I actually pay someone to answer all my social media and like triage it. And then if it's actually for me, I get it. But I actually receive like hundreds upon hundreds of messages via social media per week. And so I actually have like 2 different people now answering it because there's so much. So if I opened another LinkedIn account, I think that my social media person would just quit and tell me to go to hell. Because like, it's just so many messages of like, hey, can I have your book for free? Because I'm broke. And I'm like, no, I actually don't even own the copyright to my own book because that's how this shit works. And they're just like, you suck. I'm like, okay. And then other people are like, I don't know, asking cool questions. And some of them are actually talking to me, but a lot of them are just talking to like the public figure that they think I am. And it's like, how do I get started in this? And so I have like this big letter that I send of resources and how to help them and everything. So, but yeah, only like maybe 5 messages are actually for me per week. And it'll be like my friends messaging me there instead of texting me or something. And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm like, cool, what's up? You're gonna wait a long time. Sorry. So you have to get through the filters.
So yeah, I did also include Tanya's Twitter at She Hacks Purple. If you don't already follow her, you should.
So you can follow me on LinkedIn and you can see all of my updates, and then you can comment. And so I have like, I don't know, like 5 or 10 spaces. And what I'll do is I'll connect with the person, send messages with them, then disconnect. So I have a couple spaces again in case I need them, which is really stupid.
But more importantly, what you should do after this, like right now, is go to the Goodreads page and put a good rating, or at least a reasonable rating for what you've read so far. And you can change it, I think, always, right?
Yeah, you can change it later.
But there's a person who commented negatively before the book was even out. So we're just trying to like make it fair.
Yeah, she gave me a 1 out of 5 and I was like, that's really mean.
Like it wasn't even out yet because I had just talked to you and been like, when are we getting the book? And then I was like, how did this person read it already? So yeah,
they didn't.
Please leave a review.
That don't like you because of whatever public thing that you did, or for instance, if you refused to speak at their meetup because you were actually really busy that day and you couldn't make it on your trip, and then they're upset with you indefinitely and think you're a really bad person, and then they do things like give you 0 out of 5 on reviews. And I'm like, well, you made your point clear.
So yes, please do rate the book. And for next week, read part 2.
That was a really cute puppy, Tony.
How many chapters, part 2?
Is it 5 chapters?
I didn't see that. Oh, you talk about part 2 in the book. Part
That's
2.
correct.
Yeah.
Part 2 we made up. Okay,
Correct.
I got it.
Yeah, so part 2 is chapters 6, 7, 8, just 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
And then if you have any questions that you think about after the call, feel free to send them to Tanya on Twitter, or you can send them to me and I'll get the answers to you in the Goodreads discussion. However you want to go about that, we're here to help and get your questions answered.
Yes, cool.
Other than that, thanks everybody for joining tonight. Thank you for your questions, comments, and attendance. And Tanya, we will see you next week if you have time.
Yeah.
If not, that's okay. Yeah. But hopefully we'll see you again.
Be okay. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for reading my book. I really appreciate it.
Very welcome. Thanks everyone. And Tony, bring your dog back next week.
They're very excited.
They're super cute.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.